Hello, hello, hello! Welcome back. So, last time we heard about pyramids, star forts, and how he doesn't understand that people could live without plumbing or electricity. This time, it's gonna be weird. He starts getting into a whole new world of insanity. Splitting this one into two parts, just to save your sanity a little bit. If you missed the first one, check that out. Link in the description, as well as this little thingy above. Yeah, well, on that note, hang on tight, because we're going for a ride.
Our journey begins in the unlikeliest of places, 19th century St. Petersburg, at the entrance to St. Isaac's Cathedral. The city cold, the early morning mists dissipating with the approach of the sun, and our boots caked in mud. The year is 1860, and while St. Petersburg stands regal and proud, its inhabitants are nowhere to be found.
Because clearing streets for a photo never happens. Not once, ever.
It is quiet. Too quiet. The population of St. Petersburg in the 1860s was, we are told, roughly 500,000 people. And yet there is not a soul in sight. Where is everybody?
Getting their butts probed by aliens, we are told.
The long shadow of Alexander Column gives us a clue as to the time of the sun's journey above this region. Long shadows only occur during morning or evening. It must be morning, but it appears that no one has surfaced yet. If we travel 400 miles across to Moscow, we see the same thing. Empty, quiet streets. In 1860, Moscow shared a similar population with St. Petersburg, roughly 500,000 citizens. But again, where is everybody?
Let me guess. The whole country of Russia was abducted by aliens, or getting anally probed, or maybe Russia's a hoax. Yeah, that's it. Russia's a hoax. All that's fake. Nobody lives or ever lived in Russia.
What about the rest of the world during this time period? Edinburgh, Scotland, 1840s.
Butt stuff with aliens. Oh yeah.
Copenhagen, Denmark, 1840s.
It was the gargoyles over Copenhagen. Google that shit.
Dresden, Germany, 1860s.
Butt stuff.
Rio in Brazil, 1860s.
Amazon tribes got them.
Toronto, Canada, 1860s.
Abducted by Bigfoot. Or wait, no, they're Canadians, so that's Sasquatch? Yeah, abducted by Sasquatch.
Athens in Greece, 1860s.
Zeus got all smitey and they got smote.
And then London. Finally, people.
Oh, thank God. I was getting worried. I was worried that all the people were just poof, gone. Bigfoot, Zeus, aliens, butt stuff.
And what about Paris? People, life. The first photograph, we are told, was created in 1822.
No. First photo was taken in either 1826 or 1827 by this handsome devil right here, whose name I am not even going to try to pronounce.
The art of photography relies on methods of juxtaposition, of comparison and contrast to deliver its message and sentiment. In these old photographs, we do not find the same deliberate techniques of juxtaposition that contemporary photographers craft into their art, but rather we find natural contrasts that are so important and central to navigating through our deceptive history. Contrast is a phenomenon, natural or artificial, in which meaning is generated and conveyed through the comparison of two opposing elements.
And guess what, everyone? He's wrong again. Contrast just means difference. That's it. Whether it's achieved through different colors or different shade. Yeah, it just means difference. That's it. Although he does say it more poetically, but he's wrong.
When looking at 1860s Russia, there is an immediate contrast between the lack of population and the sheer size of these cities. Even in the 19th century, both Moscow and St. Petersburg are enormous. The infrastructure found in the photographs could hold a population well into the millions. Why are the cities so vast if the population was only 500,000 in each?
Like I said, Russia's a hoax, or aliens and butt stuff.
Furthermore, the official narrative gives us a population that increases in a linear fashion from 1764. Many of the buildings we see here were built years before the photograph was taken.
Is he trying to insinuate that nobody lived there before photography became a thing? And, I mean, yeah, there was a city and people lived there and there were houses and other buildings. So, yeah. Well, let's just keep falling down this rabbit hole.
Did the Russians just plan well in advance? But it's when the population is introduced into these photographs that a new contrast emerges that is staggering. That is, between the people and the environment itself. It may be the reduced population numbers, or it may be the monochromatic starkness of the black and white images, but they present to us something that we've lived amongst our entire lives and never paid any mind to.
Alright, friends. Here it is. Here we go. Hang on.
That is, the enormity and impossibility of the architecture. As we engage with the industry and act of tourism, we journey from place to place and observe, taking it all in, learning, hearing, and being told what we are looking at and how it came to be. And standing in front of a structure like the Arc de Triomphe in Paris, we might even exclaim, wow, how did they do this? But the moment, inextricably wrapped up in the busyness of the scene, perhaps prevents us from really asking that question with sincerity. Standing in front of a structure like the Arc de Triomphe while the crowd frantically takes pictures on their smartphones makes it all a reality. And we conclude, before being shoved away by new tourists, well, they had to have done it somehow because I'm here and looking at it.
Well, yeah, that's kind of obvious, isn't it? You're looking at a building, somebody had to build it. Kind of goes hand in hand. Unless you think it's a hologram or something. What do you all think? Do you think he's going to go with holograms? Let's find out.
During our indoctrination at school, we are seldom shown old photographs of the grand cities scattered around our flat realm. And perhaps for good reason. Because when we marinate on images like this...
What's your favorite marinade? Mine's chili lime. What do you guys like to bathe in?
And are presented with the visual evidence of a very primitive Victorian people.
People in the Victorian era weren't very primitive. Does this guy think that 200-300 years ago people were running around beating each other with rocks and sticks? I mean, he talks about 200-300 years ago like they were fucking cavemen.
Dotted around like grasshoppers within the shadows of the most magnificent, grandiose, brilliant architecture a human could ever imagine, we begin to have doubts. Indeed, how did they build this?
Do we though? Do we really wonder how they built that stuff? I mean, they did have cranes, they had carts, cutting tools. There really isn't much of a mystery there. We know.
The Arc de Triomphe is made from 36,695 cube meters of limestone.
So, I tried to fact check him there, because I'm sure he was probably wrong on that too. I mean, you couldn't even do a quick, easy Google search to find out when the first photograph was taken. Couldn't find anything about how much limestone was in there, but did find out that it took 30 years to build, between 1806 and 1836. So there is that, and I have a funny feeling he's probably going to get that wrong too.
And weighs 95,407 tons, or just over 95 million kilograms. They tell us it took 12 years to build the giant arch in two different periods, between 1806 to 1814, and between 1832 to 1836.
Oh look, he's wrong about that too. So construction did stop in 1815 when Napoleon abdicated the throne and gave it to his son, but then it started up again in 1824, not 1830. It was actually technically finished in 1830 and opened to the public in 1836. So, yeah. That's from Napoleon.org. I'll trust them over him.
How did they transport this amount of limestone with the same horse and carts that we see in the photographs?
Well, they wouldn't have used those same horses and carts that you see in the photographs, because those are for just everyday people going about their business. They would use, well, kind of like our construction equipment. They would be bigger carts with teams of horses or even teams of oxen to pull the big-ass carts with the big-ass blocks of limestone. So, yeah, this guy just does not understand anything.
Look closer at the four sculptures that adorn each of its sides. Look at the intricacy of the sculptures and the patterning of the ornamentation that frames the arch. Each section is perfectly repeated without any deviation or inconsistency.
Well, I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say they probably hired the best artists to do that stuff. So I don't see why having something, well, for lack of better wording, artistically perfect would be a big stretch.
The first true power tool was not invented until 60 years after this arch was completed. They tell us this was crafted by hand. Is that even possible? And then there is the ceiling of the arch. Immaculate, 3D sculpted roses, perfect in their geometric symmetry. The nuance of the detail and finesse of each petal and cross-section borders is overwhelming. Look at the rest of Paris during this time. Again, a plethora of unbelievable, gigantic and magnificent structures. The city's infrastructure glorious, and the people and their means of transport primitive.
he keeps saying primitive, but I'm starting to get the funny feeling that he doesn't really know what primitive means. Yeah, Victorian era, and, well, even 200-300 years before that, they weren't primitive by any stretch.
Unsophisticated and seeming not at all developed to the point of producing a city like this. The roads are improperly paved and uneven. They are dirty and muddy. We also see buildings during this period in which the architecture aligns with the inhabitants. Buildings of misshapen proportions, less developed and refined, charming in their own way, but coarse in their use of wood and plaster.
Because obviously poor people weren't a thing back then, and this guy's talking like an entire city should be built on, well, with the extravagance that a government would put into monuments, or the Catholic Church would put into something like, well, Notre Dame.
This is exactly the type of architecture we expect of a generation of horse and cart. A generation ignorant to the discoveries in technology that would follow in the years to come. Furthermore, at the time of this photograph, the arch is roughly 40 years old since its completion. Yet can you see how worn some of the parts of the structure are? We see weathering on the stone that suggests the arch is much older.
Limestone's pretty soft for a stone. But also that picture, it's black and white. It's not a great photograph. And there's a lot of shadow in there. You can't make out detail. You can't tell how badly it's weathered or anything like that. I mean, you go there today and see it, and it doesn't look all fucked up, so why would it be fucked up 40 years after? I know there's been some restoration done to preserve it, but they haven't had to, redo all the artwork on there. That's just ridiculous.
As we approach the late 19th century, we see that the people of Moscow have finally decided to leave their homes and venture out into the streets.
I guess the aliens were done doing butt stuff.
The infamous Red Square, now bustling with life. St. Basil's Cathedral and the Spasskaya Tower dominate the frame of the square. The construction of St. Basil's Cathedral began in 1555 and was completed in 1561. A mere 6 years. It suffered a huge fire in 1737 and underwent restoration over a 20-year period.
There was also a large fire there in 1595, but I guess he forgot to mention that. I know this is getting a little rough and convoluted, and it's really not going anywhere, but just hang on. I promise. He's getting to a point.
But look at it. What a structure. Almost unreal, and like no other. It is composed of thousands of red bricks and tin sheet metal that has been shaped into the distinctive onion domes we see. Look closer at the intricacy of the domes. How did they bend metal to achieve such precision and perfection in the 18th century?
The aliens felt bad about the butt stuff, so they decided to help them out with some special technology.
And again, if they had the skills and dedication to build a wonder such as this, then why are the conditions of the road so poor and covered in mud?
I don't know. We'll have to find out in the next episode. So, I'm going to leave it off there for now. I know this one was rough. I promise he's getting to a point, and yeah, it's embarrassing to know that we breathe the same air. It's nuts. So, thank you for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell thing, all of that good stuff. Done shilling. Take care of yourselves, stay safe, and I will see you next time with the rest of part 2. Thanks for watching.